Hello and welcome to Mangatory 96, and today we're going to talk about Arifureta Shokugyou de Sekai Saikyou. Today's topic will be the strongest and most noble race in all of Tortus, which is quite ironic considering that the biggest pervert comes from said race. As they say, every family has a black sheep, only in this case the black sheep is actually a black dragon. I'm of course talking about the Dragonmen Tribe. But before we start, here is the spoiler warning, as I'll be spoiling a lot of things in this video, so if you don't want to be spoiled, I would highly recommend that you go and read the light novel, as it is an enjoyable read. For everyone else, let's start with who the Dragonmen are. The Dragonmen Tribe, or Dragonborn, is a near extinct race of beings of Tortus. They were a legendary race of powerful beings that were presumed to be extinct around 500 years before the heroes of Earth were summoned by Echt. Dragonmen were humanoid beings with the ability to use special magic of dragonification to transform into dragons that boasted immense strength and defensive ability due to their sturdy scales. A dragon's clothes are stored inside their scale after they transform. It is speculated by Hajime that the special ability of dragonification was imbued into the Dragonmen with the use of a metamorphosis magic, though it is unknown how it got inherited. The color of the Dragonman scale and breath in their dragon form matches the hair color in their human form. Aside from the ability to transform, Dragonmen are nearly identical in appearance to humans, with the only difference of having slightly elongated ears with pointed tips and their nails being longer and pointy with a darker color. Dragonmen sought to be the guardians of Tortus and establish a nation that promoted harmony and cooperation among all the races of Tortus. Initially, they were considered foolish idealists by most beings, but when they eventually succeeded, they were revered as the world protectors. Though the Dragonmen lived in peace with the other races for centuries, that changed when Tortus' celestial god Echt orchestrated a war against them that led to the deaths of most of its people. Fortunately, a secret village was prepared beforehand to which the surviving Dragonmen fled and lived in seclusion for 500 years. Since then, the Dragonmen have sworn to defeat Echt and free Tortus from his manipulation. They are ruled by Cloros' family and were also the one who orchestrated the survivor escape from Echt's followers during the war against their people. As the legendary race of the sky, Dragonmen possess a variety of ability which makes them a fierce race across Tortus. They were said to be one of the strongest races of Tortus, rivaled only by the vampires in power. Dragonmen boast overwhelming physical power and immense defense capabilities due to their scales, which allow them to resist many attacks that will otherwise leave lethal injuries on other races. While in the dragon form, they were incredibly fast while flying, particularly those with a high affinity for wind magic. They have the ability to control their own mana, just like the monsters, and can use one of more elemental magics that they specialize in according to their dragon type. Each Dragonman is born with an inherent affinity to that element, which they can unleash in their dragon form as a breath attack. Even in their human form, they are capable of adeptly using them with great proficiency. As for some important members of the clan, first we have the ruler of the clan. Adul Cloros is the current ruler of the Dragonmen Tribe as well as the grandfather of Tio. He is wise and compassionate. Contrary to the stern atmosphere that he gives off, he acts quite gentle. His wisdom has earned him the respect of both his people and the rest of the world. Due to his many years of experience, Adul is very perceptive and can easily tell when someone is lying to him. As for his past, when the false god Echt manipulated the people of Tortus into attacking the Astral Dragon Kingdom, Adul and his son Karga made preparation for the Dragonmen to survive. Adul was believed to have been killed after battling one of Echt's apostles, but had actually faked his death and fled with many of the Dragonmen to a hidden island to where they lived in peace for centuries. Over 500 years later, when the heroes of another world were summoned to Tortus to aid humanity's war against the demons, Adul and the other Dragonmen sensed their arrival and planned to send someone to the mainland in order to determine if they were a threat. His granddaughter Tio volunteered to investigate, to which he accepted. Tio returned home months later to recruit the rest of the Dragonmen to fight Echt, who was planning to destroy all life on Tortus. She and Adul had a brief touching reunion before Tio revealed the reason for her return. He then ordered for all the dragomen to gather together in order to hear his granddaughter's report. During that time, Adul sensed a change in Tio and suspected that it was due to the people that she had met during her travels. After a brief rest, Tio relayed the result of her travels to her people. Adul was shocked after he and the other dragomen witnessed the recordings that she presented to them that showed the fight against ex-servant god Alva. Adul was especially shocked after Tio accidentally showed a recording of her being repeatedly whipped by Hajime in order to use her pain conversion skill to obtain the energy needed to fly back home, and had fainted after seeing how much his granddaughter enjoyed such harsh treatment. After regaining himself from witnessing such a surprising scene, he approached Tio while she was visiting her parents' grave. Tio justified her earlier display as having merely discovered a new fetish, to which Adul begrudgingly accepted this new side of her. Tio then criticizes herself for being unable to protect her companion Yue when she became possessed by Echt during the fight. Seeing how powerful Tio had become during the fight against Alva, Adul abruptly decided to take Tio to the mausoleum of their ancestors and brought her to an altar that contained a red scale. Tio immediately sensed an immense wave of power emanating from that scale and suspected it was actually a product of concept magic. Adul explained that it belonged to one of their ancestors who initially sought peace between the Dragonmen and humanity, but then wished to destroy them after they killed his wife. He would eventually be killed by his son, but one of his scales still remained that bore all of his hatred. He then told Tio that the scale could grant immense power to its wielder at the cost of losing their sanity, but suspected that Tio could both wield it and pacify the hatred it bore. Tio accepted this opportunity and grabbed the scale without hesitation. A second later, she felt as though her blood was freezing in her veins as the scale's immense power brought her to her knees. Adul started to doubt that Tio could properly wield the scale and was prepared to cut her arm off in order to prevent it from controlling her, but Tio resolved herself to overcome this child on her own. After a few minutes, Tio successfully managed to overcome the scale's power, much to Adul's amazement, but temporarily left her in a severely weakened state. The day before the final battle against Echt, Adul and many of the Dragonmen accompanied Tio to the Holy Kingdom in order to offer their support for the other nations that will fight as well. Many of the Dragonmen immediately expressed their hatred towards Hajime for having turned their beloved Tio into a pervert, with one of them, Ristas, having accused him of brainwashing her. Adul immediately interjected and admonished the young Dragonman for letting his jealousy overcome him by making false accusations. After having introduced himself to the other nations' rulers, Adul approached Hajime and offered him his praise for having been able to kill Alva. Hajime responded by apologizing for having turned Tio into a pervert and even politely offered to let Adul punch him as punishment, much to the shock of everyone that knew him. Adul was surprised by this unexpected response, but Hajime explained that it was due to her being Tio's grandfather, to which Adul cheerfully declined Hajime's offer and instead expressed his happiness that he was able to make Tio happy. Immediately afterwards, Adul's tone became more serious and wished to ascend Hajime's relationship with Tio by expressing his refusal to let her fight alongside him if he did not genuinely care for her, since the upcoming battle could result in her death. Hajime brazenly declared that despite being in a relationship with Yue, he also loved Tio and that he would fight anyone that tried to take her from him. Adul happily accepted Hajime's resolve after seeing the bond that Tio had forged with him and the rest of her new comrades, and made him promise to treasure Tio before rejoining the other rulers to discuss the strategy for fighting Echt's forces. Moving on to Karga. Adul Cloros was Tio's father and the former king of the Dragonmen. He died by sacrificing himself to fight off Echt's forces for Tio and the other Dragonmen to escape. He was a wise and compassionate. He welcomed those of the other races into his kingdom and was a huge advocate of peace. He was a firm believer in the ideal that Dragonmen should act as protectors of the world and they should not succumb to anger or hatred. Even after his people were killed by those he once welcomed with open arms, Karga was able to get past his anger and know that the true enemy was Echt, who manipulated the people of Tortus to attack the Dragonmen. While he stays behind to give his daughter the chance to escape, he refused to give Echt any satisfaction of killing those that are attacking him, and instead used his power to defend his people until he died. He tends to charge headfirst into battle and was willing to endure any attack that his enemies throw at him. As for his past, Karga was the king of the Dragonmen at a time when being all of the races could live together in peace, and his nation was at the center of it all. Unfortunately, his people were declared to be the enemies of Echt and were attacked by his followers. He and his father Adul made preparation for their people to survive, which included faking Adul's death so that he may live and rule their people while in hiding. Karga also tried to kill Echt but was unsuccessful in his effort. As his people were getting massacred, he reunited with his daughter Tio while he was severely wounded and informed her of the Dragonmen's defeat. It was then that they saw the crucified body of Tio's mother, among others, that was being used as an example of what would happen to the enemies of Echt. This prompted Tio to grow in anger and desire to avenge what was happening to her people, but Karga stopped her by reminding her that Dragonmen were beings who vowed to protect the world. He explained to Tio that the true enemy were Echt and that he was the powerful and cunning one, but Karga held out hope that someone would one day arrive and overthrow him. He had Tio escape to where the rest of the Dragonmen were hiding, while he stayed behind to sacrifice himself and make it look like the Dragonmen had all perished by allowing himself to be killed since he was their king. Moving on to Orna. Orna Cloros was the queen of the Dragonmen Tribe. She was the wife of Karga and the mother of Tio. Orna is wise and lovable who looks up to her subjects. Normally, she was a gentle person, but when she went into the battle, she turned into a destructive force. She is willing to sacrifice her life to save her family and people. As for her past, Orna was the queen of the Dragonmen at a time when beings of all races could live together in peace, and her nation was at the center of it all. Unfortunately, her people were declared to be enemies of the celestial god Echt and were attacked by his followers. While many of the Dragonmen had secretly evacuated their homes in order to escape, Orna was among those that stayed behind to hold off their enemies. She fought to the best of her abilities, but was ultimately killed and crucified as a way to set an example to those that will defy the gods. With this, I covered everything that I wanted to cover on the Dragonmen. And that'll be all for this video. If you like this video, leave a like, leave your thoughts in the comments below, or subscribe to the channel for more manga reviews and One Piece content. And until next time, take care.